Hello everyone, this is Putnam County historian Larry Tippin. We have been doing a series on the tiny towns and vantage villages of Putnam County. And during our research, we sometimes come across information that can add to previous stories. This is a good example related to the Edna Collings Bridge. As we're going through the presentation, we'll be looking at various slides and so forth. And if I get ahead of you, you can always pause or pull the button back, look at previous slides. The Edna Collings Bridge was the shortest and most recently constructed covered bridge in Putnam County. At 80 feet in length, it crosses Little Walnut Creek northwest of Clinton Falls on County Road 450 North, which was formerly known as the Joseph Moeller Road. Constructed by Charlie Hendrick, a farmer and building contractor from nearby Bainbridge, at a cost of $4,600. The bridge replaced the former concrete bridge, which, along with about 16 other bridges in the county, washed out in the Great Flood of 1922. It is a through-arch truss burr-style bridge constructed of Mississippi pine. Photo of the Edna Collings Bridge. We need to first resolve the issue about how it should be spelled. It is always spelled Edna Collings with no G. It was named after Edna, sometimes spelled Collings with a G, who was 71 years old when the bridge was constructed in 1922. The family owned the farm southwest of the bridge, and it's possible the county commissioners named it for the closest residing elder of the community, which was Edna Collings. This is the location of the Edna Collings Bridge from the 1914 map we have. And you see that southwest of the bridge, we see the farm of Edna Collings. In this case, she spells it with a G. But in all the primary source documentation, the time the bridge was constructed, it was always spelled Collins with no G, never Collings. Therefore, the bridge is and should always be referred to as Edna Collings Bridge, never Edna Collings. See some examples of that. 1922, its primary source, contemporaneous newspaper article. At the time the bridge washed out, the commissioners are ready to let bids for the new bridge at the Edna Collings Bridge in Clinton Township, located on the east end of the Joseph Moeller Road, about 1 mile northwest of Clinton Falls, estimated to cost $5,190. And we see when they opened the bids of these various bridges, it was the bridge was accepted by Charles Hendricks at $4,600, a little bit under the estimate. They get Edna Collins, never with a G. There's a folklore related to this bridge. Some have claimed the bridge is haunted, either by Edna Collins or some other young girl who is said to have drowned in Little Walnut Creek below the bridge. Never mind that the small stream is barely deep enough for one to wade, let alone swim. The story goes that Edna's parents would leave her at the bridge to swim in the stream below, so they went to Greencastle or elsewhere to do their shopping. When they returned to the bridge, they would honk the horn 3 times to let Edna know it's time to go home, so the story goes. One day, long about dusk, Edna did not answer those calls from the 3 honks from the family car, but the family dog did come running up from the stream. They apparently frantically searched for little Edna and found her drowned in the stream. Some variations of the story indicate Edna's mother was so distraught she hung herself on the steps or in the front of a nearby church. Legend says if you go to the bridge along about dusk and honk your car horn 3 times, you might not hear or see anything, but when you return home, you will notice handprints just the size a little girl would make on the windows of your car. Just a few facts. Edna was 71 years old when the bridge was constructed. Edna never married. A thorough review of the contemporaneous primary source documents does not include reports of any drowning at or near the bridge at any time. Edna lived to be quite old, buried in the Mount Moriah Cemetery at Park Canyon near Hollinsburg, near her brother John, as we can see the tombstone, which does spell the family name with a G. Like most folklore, this appears to be based on some factual events, but not at the Edna Collings Bridge, and not with the people previously noted. As documented in the November 10, 1911 edition of the Greencastle Herald, 2.5-year-old Cecil Slavens, son of Charles and Sarah Slavens, who were residing on the John Quinlick farm in Section 22 of Madison Township, wandered off from home with a family dog. Her mother, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, noticed little Cecil was nowhere to be seen and went off to look for him. After not finding the young child after a search of about a half hour, she became alarmed and called her husband Charles, who was shucking corn some distance away. The Slavens frantically searched for their missing son and in time noticed the family dog on the far bank of a small tributary that fed into Little Walnut Creek with Cecil nowhere to be seen. After a search of less than a moment, resulted in the farmer finding his son, now cold in death, lying face down in the water. Cecil's father picked up the little boy and did all he could to coax life back into him. Finding that he could not, he ran to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Jesse Sears, a short distance away, and called Dr. Tucker over the telephone, who came very quickly but found the little child had been dead for some time. Dr. Tucker made an investigation of the place where the body was found, noted the stream was little more than a spring that drained into Little Walnut Creek. The water of the place the child was found was not more than 7 inches deep, and then a distance from 10 feet either way, no more than 8 or 9 inches deep. The fact that a 2.5-year-old child could drown in 7 inches of water was astounding, so the newspaper article goes. There were no bruises on the body to give evidence the child had fallen hard enough to stun himself. The county coroner, Dr. Gillespie, also investigated and determined the child's death to be a terrible accident. Cecil Slavens buried Long Branch Cemetery, Madison Township, not far from where the tragedy occurred. This is the tombstone. Along with his sister Madonna, who was born about a month after Cecil drowned, lived to be 2 years old. This is a newspaper article from November 10, 1911, Greencastle Herald. You can go to the Hoosier Straight Chronicles if you like and download or view this article. I'm going to go through it, which is where I got most of the accounts of the story. Or you can pause and read it as you wish. One of the saddest accidents that's happened in Putnam County in many months occurred 9 o'clock this morning when Cecil Slavens, the 2.5-year-old son of Mr. and Mrs. Charles Slavens, who lived on the John Quinlick farm about 4 miles west of Greencastle, was drowned in a small creek near his home. The lad was found by his father, who had been searching for him for about 30 minutes. His body was laying in the water, which at this place was less than 8 inches deep. The little boy and his pet dog had left their home and wandered toward the creek without the knowledge of either of his parents. About 30 minutes after they left, Mrs. Slavens noticed the son was missing and searched for him. In looking for his son in the creek, she saw nothing. Unable to find the missing child, called out for her husband, who was shucking corn some distance away. The father also went toward the creek in search of the child. Then, startled to see the child's dog on the far side of the creek. The action of the animal aroused the fear in the father's breast that his son had been drowned. A search of less than a moment resulted in the father finding his son, now cold in death, lying in the water. Picked him up, tried everything he could to coax life back into him. Then he went to the neighbors and phoned, as we noted. And then everything we had noted about Dr. Tucker came in, examined the little stream. And then the fact that a 2.5-year-old child could drown in 7 inches of water is astounding. There are no bruises on the body to give evidence the child had fallen hard enough to stun himself. And then, as we noted, Dr. Gillespie, the coroner, also examined and found it to be a terrible accident. Just to show you what we're talking about, here's an 1864 map of Putnam County, courtesy of the Library of Congress. This is the Clinton Falls area as we know it now. There was no Clinton Falls 1864, but there was an Alma a little bit to northwest, and just north of that was Edna Collings Bridge over Little Walnut Creek. And all the way down here, Madison Township was where the accident of Little Caesar Slavings occurred in 1911. Here's a road map of Putnam County, just also another representation of where the areas were we're talking about. That's Little Walnut Creek. So there you have it, the true and horrible drowning of young Cecil Slavin, some 11 years before the construction of the Edna Collins Bridge, has segued into a rather ridiculous ghost story. The drowning occurred in a small tributary running Little Walnut Creek, located about 4 miles west of Greencastle, about 6 miles south of the Edna Collins Bridge. Mrs. Slavins went on to have 8 more children, including Edna Ruth Slavin, who was born in 1914. The fact that the deceased boy had a sister named Edna, and the fact the small stream he drowned in flowed in the same waterway that Edna Collins Bridge sprouts, has apparently contributed to the confusion that spawned this piece of wildly inaccurate folklore. I hope you enjoyed hearing what really happened at Little Walnut Creek, not far from the Edna Collins Bridge. If you choose to believe this ghost story, then please do. But now you have some factual information to find out what really happened.